Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 23rd chapter, text 14 to text 21. I'll just share my screen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Divyopakaranopetam sarvakala sukhavaham pattikabhi patakabhir vichitrabhir alankritam sragbhir vichitramalayabhir manjusinjat sadangribihi dukhula kshaumakaushyeye nanavastrer virajitam. Word to word meaning: Divya, wonderful. Upakarana, with paraphernalia. Upetyam, equipped. Sarvakala, in all seasons. Sukhavaham, bringing happiness. Pattikabhihi, with festoons. Patakabihi, with flags. Vichitrabihi, of various colors and fabrics. Alankritam, decorated. Shragbihi, with wreaths. Vichitra Malayabihi, with charming flowers. Manju, sweet. Sinjat, humming. Sadangribihi, with bees. Dukhula, with fine cloth. Shauma, linen. Kausheye, of silk cloth. Nana, various. Vastrehi, with tapestries. Virajitam, embelled. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The castle was fully equipped with all necessary paraphernalia, and it was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around the flags, festoons, and artistic works. Translation: the palace looked charming with beads, conches, fans, and seats, all separately arranged in the 7 stories. It is understood from this verse that the castle had many stories. The words upari upari vinyasta indicate that the skyscrapers are not newly invented. Even in those days, millions of years ago, the idea of building many-storied houses was current. They contained not merely one or two rooms, but many different apartments. Each was completely decorated with cushions, bedsteads, sitting places, and carpets. Text 17. Its beauty was enhanced by artistic engravings here and there on the walls. The floor was of emerald, of coral dais. At present moment, we are very proud of the architectural art. Yet the floors are generally decorated with colored cement. It appears, however, that the castle constructed by the yogic powers of Kardam Muni had floors of emerald with coral dais. Text 18. The palace was very beautiful with its coral thresholds at the entrances and its doors bedecked with diamonds. Gold pinnacles crowned its domes of sapphire. Text 19. With the choicest rubies set in its diamond walls, it appeared as though possessed of ice. It was furnished with wonderful canopies and greatly valuable gates of gold. Artistic jewelry, decorations, giving the appearance of the eyes are not imaginary. Even in recent times, the Mughal emperors constructed their palaces with decorations of jeweled birds with eyes made of valuable stones. The stones have been taken away by the authorities, but the decorations are still present in some of the castles constructed by the Mughal emperors in New Delhi. The royal palaces are built with jewels and rare stones resembling the eyes, and thus at night they would give off reflective light without need of lamps. Here and there in that palace were multitudes of live swans and pigeons, as well as artificial swans and pigeons so lifelike that the real swans rose above them again and again, thinking them live birds like themselves. Thus, the palace vibrated with sounds of these birds. The castle had pleasure grounds, resting chambers, bedrooms, and inner and outer courtyards designed with an eye of comfort. All this caused astonishment to the sage himself. Kardamuni, being a saintly person, was living in a humble hermitage, but when he saw the palace constructed by his yogic powers, which was full of resting rooms, rooms of sex enjoyment, and inner and outer yards, he himself was astonished. That is the way of a God-gifted person. A devotee like Kardamuni exhibited such opulence by his yogic power at request of his wife. But when the opulence was produced, he himself could not understand how such manifestations could be possible. When a yogi's power is exhibited, the yogi himself is sometimes astonished. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाता सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णा प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। I'd like to seek the blessings of His Grace, Krishna Prabhuji and all the senior Vaishnavas present here. So, on their instructions to receive their blessings and as a service to my special master, discussing today from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto. The context of this particular verse is pretty interesting. So we have Lord Vishnu, who is the source of Brahma, which we also know from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Janmadesya Ato Anavaditartas Chateshu Abhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikaves. Actually, Vishnu from the lotus navel actually came in, and then we see that from Brahma, the son of Brahma, or one of the Manus, was Swayambhu Manu, and Swayambhu Manu's daughter is Devahuti, who is now in this current conversation. So we have two main characters which we are going to focus today, or the conversation which is happening here, or what is being described. This is between Kardama and Devahuti. So I told you that Devahuti is the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, and Kardamuni is a very great devotee of the Lord, and he is following the instructions of Brahmaji and also Swayambhu Manu, which we read in the previous chapters. And we understand in this particular chapter, or in this particular canto, how Kardamuni was very determined to follow the instruction of his special master, and he also performed tapasya for almost 10,000 years. And after 10,000 years of tapasya, he attained the Lord. And when the Lord came in front of him, the Lord himself told him that, yes, in days to come, the emperor of the world would approach you with his daughter after he had asked for marriage. So the point is that how in this world, what the Lord actually knew, he knows what is best for the devotee. So in that case, the Lord had already told him that he's gonna get Devahuti as his wife. So Devahuti, by her sincere service to her husband Kardamuni, she pleased him. She served him with great intimacy and with respect. And because of her service, Kardamuni was greatly pleased, and he mentioned it also. I'm very pleased because of your great devotion and because of what. Just 1 minute, can I take the bottle? She also mentioned that Kardamuni mentioned that he was pleased with the devotion of Devahuti, and in that case, what happened is Devahuti actually asked him that, can you please help me satisfy my desire of the passion. And also she asked for a house in the previous verse. And here we read that in this particular verse, in 23rd chapter, in the just previous verse of 13 and 14, when she asked for children and for house, it's pretty interesting that Kardamuni was living in a hut. So the hut is in goodness, so it's quite difficult to do passionate activities in the hut. So in order to actually get place where they could perform the passionate activity and beget children, so and also enjoy. So then she asked for a house, and by the yogic powers of Kardamuni, he was able to produce an aerial mansion which could travel all around the world along with the people inside. So and the description what we read just now 5-10 minutes ago is the description of that aerial mansion, which is the castle with so much of opulence, what we read, right? So we can see from this verse that how it's not that people in the past did not have any advancement or things like that. Also, Prabhupada mentioned the purport of 3rd canto, 23rd chapter, text 16, that how the word upari vinyasta, that indicates that the skyscrapers are not newly invented. So which means that it was already there before. So we understand that whatever we are doing was already part of what was there before. We also understand how in the Vedic civilization, we had a lot of, like, say, for example, Vedic mathematics is already a part of the Vedas, or it's already told in the past, but now people are lately discovering it. We have the embryology, which is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam in quite detailed manner, and now modern science is actually realizing it and then bringing a lot of text in there. But this was told in the Vedas long ago. In the Vedas, it is mentioned that the plants have life, but now people lately discovered it. So we can see that what the Shastras mention or what our ancient civilization had, it is something which is coming from the very old tradition, and now we are just following the same things. So, right, so that's the point which is being made here, and it's not something which is newly invented. In fact, I was reading an article where it mentioned that the people who were in our ancient civilization, they were more advanced than what we are now, because their pleasure of happiness was far more than what we have now, because just by having some gadgets or some technological advancement, one can't achieve happiness in his life. So the point what is being made here is that how the Vedic civilization is something which is coming in from the age old tradition, and it was already more advanced than what we are at the present moment. And at the present moment, we are pretty proud of our technological advancement, but our ancestors were more advanced than us. And another point in this connection given here is also how the jewels in itself. So the palaces were actually built of the jewels, and in itself it used to actually reflect. So from the moonlight or from the other light sources, in the night it used to reflect, and you don't need. So we can see we can see from Om Purnamadaha Midam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. We can see how this material creation
Hare Krishna.
fix that. Okay. Sorry for technical glitch. And we can also see how in the last verse, what is being mentioned here, that Kardamuni, being a saintly person, was living in a humble hermitage. So, devotee of the Lord is actually less satisfied in pleasing the Lord. He does not desire anything personal for himself. He just sees that, okay, I want to actually perform my austerities. I want to please the Lord. So, Kardamuni actually believed in simple living, and he was a very saintly person. But just on the request of his wife, he exhibited his powers, which is also mentioned here. So a devotee of the Lord is not that a devotee of the Lord is like, okay, he can't have any mystic powers, or he can't have any of the opulence of this world or things like that. In fact, we have many examples from Shastras also how devotees of the Lord were very opulent, and they used all that opulence in Krishna's service. Like if you see from the example of Amrish Maharaj himself, we know that verse how one of the verses in Bhagavatam actually mentioned Savayamana Krishna Padara Vendayo Vasamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane Karo Hare Mandira Marjanadishu Shutim Chakurya Chuta Satkathodaye. We know that how Amrish Maharaj engaged his mind in meditation on Lord's feet of the Lord, his words in describing the glory of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, for example, in his ears in hearing about the glory of the Lord, and all his wealth he used in Krishna service. So there's one example of Amrish Maharaj. Also, Prahlad Maharaj, for example, he was a king in itself. And even our present examples of Amrish Prabhu, for example, we can see how he is helping the construction of temple of Radicular Planetarium so much. He has got the instruction from his spiritual master. So we can see that how a devotee is not that he cannot do anything, or he is not does not have the possibility to exhibit anything, but on himself he does not exhibit these qualities because he's not interested in it. But it does not mean that he does not have it, because a devotee's greatest wealth is the devotion to the Lord. what that is the greatest wealth what a devotee has. These secondary things are also which actually come up. Like once one of the Prabhupada disciples was mentioning that he thought that he was determined to get Srila Prabhupada's dust, on that day when they were going for a morning walk. So he actually followed Srila Prabhupada, and when he followed Srila Prabhupada, he went close to Prabhupada, and then he thought, okay, now Prabhupada is walking, so then later I will actually take his dust. But when he went to take the dust, he thought there was no dust, because Prabhupada was actually walking on a little surface above. So we can also see that, of course, this is not always, but in this case, we can see how Prabhupada exhibited these symptoms also. So a devotee need not separately endeavor to get these things. They come as a byproduct for a devotee, but it does not mean that okay, if someone is a devotee, he will not have any of these opulences or any yogic power or anything, for example. So Kardam Muni is a very, very saintly person, and we can learn from his example a lot how we have to follow the instructions of our special master. In this section, that is something very nice. When we were reading this for the first time, it was quite surprising that we understand that he met Lord himself, which is described in the previous chapters. And after meeting the Lord, this is after performing 10,000 years of tapasya, and then after meeting the Lord, then it appears, if we see from one point, it just appears that he's asking for a wife. Then, like, someone may ask, hey, he actually did so much of tapasya for 10,000 years, and then he's asking for a wife. But the point is that he had got the instruction from Brahma that you have to expand the population now, and that's your service. So he was focused on the Lord, and also he was focused on the instructions from his special master. So that is something pretty amazing. How if we see from just one viewpoint, we see that it is it appears that Kardam Muni is like crazy, but from if we see from a total perspective, we understand that how he is a very, very great personality, and we should not judge him materially. And even Srila Prabhupada, when he went to the West, talking about the Vedic civilization, the modern civilization, Prabhupada also told us how this these skyscrapers, or like when one of the instances where Prabhupada actually saw some apartments, he saw that he saw the apartments, and these are like matchboxes, they're like small boxes of people. In the past, people used to live in big houses also, but then now the more we are expanding this, like actually living in a more smaller house than bigger house. So even in the Vedic civilization, which focused on simple living and high thinking, and people were actually more happy than the days. We were also discussing how before, like say yesterday I was speaking to my mother, so before like 20 years, when we didn't have gadgets at home, like very minimal gadgets, I was asking her how was our relationship amongst each other. And now, after the intervention of gadgets in our life, how is the life amongst each other? And she clearly agreed that there's a lot of difference, and we were actually more happy before than we are happy now. So we can clearly understand that just bringing in technology is not something which is going to bring us happiness. But of course, the greatness or the best use of technology is to employ it in Krishna service. But the point is that our ancestors were more advanced than us, and even now we cannot have apartments which are flying around and then have an aerial mansion like how we see here in case of Kardam Muni. He's actually taking his wife along with the apartments. The whole thing is flying. Even that technology is not available now. So what technology is? I mean, look at the power of these mystic yogis. Even modern scientists will be bewildered. They kind of know that's the people in the past, they used to aspire for these mystic cities, which are like, they are 8 in number, Lagima, like becoming smaller than smallest, and like walking on water, or like even apart from that, these are so many things which can produce anything, whatever he wanted his will. So these are something which the yogis aspired for, and this is the power. But in case of Kardam Muni, the best thing what we can learn is he was not just a mystic yogi. We understand from Sri Bhagavatam that the perfection of his devotion, the perfection of his meditation or mystic yogism came when he actually engaged in the devotional service. It's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam that he engaged in devotional service of the Lord, and that's why he was perfect in whatever he had done. In connection to what we were discussing on the point of how everything in this world is pretty complete and God has given us. So God knows what is best for us. It may appear that, okay, currently we don't have such houses existing. We don't like see the jewels, what is mentioned in, like, say, for example, in The text 19, maybe if you see, it's mentioned that they didn't have any lights, but just by the reflective qualities of the jewels, everything used to lit up. So currently we may not be able to see this, but we understand from the Shastra that this actually existed, and having faith in the Shastras on this is something very, very important aspect. So the more we have faith in Srila Prabhupada purports, the more we have faith in the Shastras, and the more, if we don't have faith now, then lately after science, like someday they will understand, and then they'll discover. Then later we'll say, yeah, it was already told in the Shastras, like how I have mentioned about the plants example, the life in plants, which was told by Vedas long ago, but it was discovered lately by Jagadish Chandra Bose. So this is the point. What is something very, very important, that we have focus on devotion service. And the greatest, so now let us elaborate on the point how the greatest wealth of a devotee is his devotion. And we can see from the example of Sudama Brahmana, although it appears that he is a very, very poor man, although they were, on the same batch. I mean, Krishna and Sudama, they were together in Gurukul, but after they passed out of Gurukul, Krishna became the king of Dwarka, and Sudama was quite poor, and we also understand how he went again. I mean, he used to go for begging to different houses, but what kind of responses he got? It is a very nice video also available on that, made by the Chowpatty devotees. So we understand he did not get such a desirable response even as a Brahmana. No respect in the society, not a proper home, no proper food to eat also. In fact, not even 3 times meal a day. But was he rich? Yes, he was rich with devotion. You see, when Sudama came to Krishna, he didn't ask anything for himself from Krishna also. In fact, when he came to Krishna, his only desire was to see the Lord. Initially, he came on the request of his wife, but his only desire was that I want to actually meet the Lord. And yeah, it was a good thing. He didn't even express that his wife told him to collect some, ask for some money or some donation or any help, monetary help. But he was convinced that I actually am my greatest wealth of my life is devotion or bhakti to Lord Krishna. And that is something very, very important. Even in our life, we can practically apply this principle as well, how we will discuss on that. So this is Sudama is one case. And when he actually met, the video coming is paused.
Coming close, perfect.
So when Sudama went back after meeting Krishna, in fact, Krishna received him also in a fantastic manner. It's a very heart-welling pastime when we hear that Krishna washed his feet. It was something awesome. As a king, he is ready to wash Brahmana's feet. So Krishna, the Brahmanas are very, very dear to Krishna. Namo Brahman Devaya, Go Brahman Etacha. So Jagadita Krishna, Govindaya Namo. So the Brahmanas are very, very dear to Lord Krishna, and we understand it appears that when Sudama was living, he was very, very poor, but it is not the case. He was rich with devotion. When he went back, we also see that how he got such a huge palace. His entire family was filled with opulences, and with every morsel of what poha he had offered to Krishna, he was getting the opulences of of Lakshmi and of Vaikuntha. That's something awesome. So the devotees of the Lord are not interested in these opulences. Although they may have it, it does not mean that they don't have it. But the devotees of the Lord are more interested in pleasing the Lord than in having these opulences. But the point being made here is that even by being a devotee, one may have these opulences, but one may not exhibit them at certain time, because a devotee of the Lord is very simple. He does not want to self-glorify himself or put himself in the forefront or put a big image of himself. A devotee just wants to be a humble, menial servant of Guru and Krishna. That is a devotee stand, right? So the point which is being discussed here is that how Kardamani was also a very amazing personality and a very saintly person. And we can also practically. So now let us come to a little practical sense. So now we saw that how Devahoti sincerely served Kadamani, and we can also sincerely serve our special master with great devotion and loving service, and by that we can please him. Yeah. And we also discussed on the example of Sudama, how the greatest wealth what Sudama had was devotion. So even in our life, we may have many things, but the greatest thing what attracts the Lord is Manye Dhanabhijana Rupa Tapas Shrutaujas Teja Prabhava Bala Paurusha Buddhi Yoga Narayanaye Bhavanti Parasya Punsho Bhaktya Tutosha Bhagavan Gajayutapaya. So Manye Dhana, oh, wealth, no. Jana, followers, no. Abhijana Rupa, tapas, oh, you form, fame, no. Tapas, your intelligence, no. Shuta Ojas, oh, your fame, no. Any followers, no. Any amount of intelligence, no. None of these attack Krishna, but what attacks Krishna is the bhakti, which is something very, very important. So by bhakti, we can attract Krishna. So in our life, we focus on increasing our devotion service, increasing our service to Guru and Krishna. And by that, we can be very happy in our spiritual life, because spiritual life is susukam kartum avavam. And we can also understand how Maharaj Ambrish engaged his body, mind, everything in Krishna service. So we can also engage all our senses, whatever we have, everything in Krishna service, and be very happy in devotion service. And we also saw how actually one more thing I wanted to mention, in case of one more example comes to my mind of the Sridhar Kolovecha. Sridhar Kolovecha in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Lila, we see how Nimai used to come and debate or like argue with Sridhar Kolovecha. He used to tell a particular price, and then that's argument for what? For banana leaves. It's but he used to tell a particular price, but then Nimai used to actually again tell like, no, I can't give this much, and then like they had a front and forth, back and forth argument, and then they saw that they finally settled half the rate. And one day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in fact told this Sridhar Kolovecha that, you know what? You are the wealthiest person, and one day I will reveal your glory to the entire world. And he actually did it in the Mahaprakash Leela, which all of us know. So the point is, the devotee of the Lord is very satisfied in performing his devotion service and bhakti to the Lord, and that is something very important for all of us. So even we understand from this, because human civilization just does not mean that it is building big skyscraper buildings. Nashta prayashu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Actually hearing the glories of the Lord regularly, all the inauspiciousness, all the impurities are cleansed from our heart from within. And that is the beauty and greatness of the land of Bharatvarsha. People throughout history have had a spontaneous and natural desire to come together and chant the holy hymns and glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is human civilization. Human civilization is not just buildings, skyscraper buildings, although it mentions it here. So in one of the lectures I was hearing, Papa was saying that actually here in America we find that they're building big high skyscrapers, and after that what do? They are so frustrated that they climb to the top and they jump down to commit suicide. So it happens often. So this is not human civilization. Human civilization means simple living, high thinking. So that's something very important. And we may have skyscrapers, or we may not have skyscrapers. So what's done is done. But what are we doing with our lives? What are we doing with our time? We must earn our living, which means that, okay, we may maintain our families, but what is our priority in life? That is something very, very important. What are we doing before and after the needful hours of our employment? Or what are we, that is what determines the difference between the animal civilization and the human civilization. Because the glories and the passions of the Lord are pleasing to everyone's heart. They charm the heart. So they pacify our anxieties, and they purify the mind, and they awaken the natural propensity of loving God within us. So that is what is actually human civilization, and yep, that's something pretty important. And Prabhupada's mood was that, okay, you not just condemn the modern civilization, although at certain places very strongly he has done that, but the point is the point of Yukta Vairagya, and okay, oh fine, we can't actually fully switch back to the Vedic civilization, that's fine. But then we understand its importance, and at the same time, we see what is practical for us and engage whatever we have in Krishna service. So in our context, what we can do, like we are, say, some of us might be working, so we can engage our Lakshmi in Krishna service. Saturday, Sunday, we have time, we can give our full time to Krishna consciousness, the devotional service, engage in services, Shal Shri Prabhupada's mission. Those of us who are brahmacharis anyway, full time we devote to serving the Lord. But if we also consciously serve the Lord, then that's something amazing. And so those of us who are married, so the wives can cook for the Lord. They can actually raise their children in a Krishna conscious manner. The husbands also can be fully Krishna conscious, and the wife can faithfully serve the husband, like how Devoti is doing to Kadamuni. That's something very practical what we can do in our lives also from this. So that's how a devotee like Kadamuni, although he was a very saintly person, he was very elevated. And one more very amazing point here, when he got out, when by his mystic powers, he saw the aerial mansion. He exhibited the aerial mansion. He himself was astonished that, oh, how this came about. In one of the lectures of Maharaj was mentioning, a devotee himself may not know how advanced he is. Krishna does not reveal the advancement of a devotee to himself, because sometimes a devotee by that, if he gets to know, okay, he's advanced, then he will become more proud, and by that pride, we can't progress in our spiritual life. You see, the point of gravity is like, the gravity in spiritual life is completely different, which means that the more I think myself I'm great, actually I'm fallen. And the more I think that I'm humble, and even if I'm not humble, I think that way, then I actually become great in the eyes of the Lord. So that is actually the spiritual life. But the point is that a devotee is pretty advanced, and that is a very amazing point what Maharaj mentioned in our lectures. So a yogi himself is astonished. So he himself was astonished by that, because he had never desired it anyway, or neither he had tried it in the past. Okay, let me just try a sample, and then later I can give one to devotee. He didn't do that. So he actually exhibited it the first time, and then he saw that this came up, and that was pretty astonishing to Kadamani in itself too. So to summarize, we discussed 4 aspects in today's discussion. So first was that how and more advanced what we see, we need to acknowledge that Vinashyati, indicating that the skyscrapers are not newly invented, which was also done in the past, and that's nothing new what we are doing. And we also saw that how the Lord's creation is complete, because he has given us the sun, he has given us the moon, he has given whatever is the jewels. Just like the night time, the general people sleep, so then it should be a dim light. So that's why he has put a moonlight. So what a fantastic creation! It's just out of the box if you just think about it. Then we discussed how in the past, we discussed how Kardamuni, we discussed the power of mystic yogis, how they could create aerial mansions like this, and they, which is quite scientifically or even technologically far advanced in what people can create today. Even today, we can't build apartments which are flying. Beautiful also what was made from by Kardamuni. And we also saw how Kardamuni was a very saintly person. He followed the instruction of his spiritual master. He wanted to sincerely please Brahmaji, and he endeavored in that direction. And he met by his tapasya, he pleased by his devotional service, he pleased the Supreme Personality of God. He did 10,000 years of tapasya, amazing, 10,000 years, and he pleased the Lord, and the Lord himself came in front of him. So that is also something nice. And yeah, so he himself could not understand how he manifested. So, and the later part of this chapter also talks. This chapter is entitled Devahuti's Lamentation. So the later part of this chapter speaks about how. Devoti, after getting all this, she also got 9 daughters from Kadamuni, and after that, she at the last stage, he asked, "Oh, I had your association, but I didn't take it seriously. Had I just, discussed with you something more about fearlessness." She actually asks Kadamuni for fearlessness, and he asked that if only I had realized your value more, and yeah, she would take more advantage. So that's where she starts lamenting, and that's why this chapter is also named Devuti's Lamentation. And later part, the Lord himself as Kapil Dev appears from Devahuti, and we see or descends. He actually is the son of Devahuti and Kapila, and he gives the divine instructions of the Sankhya philosophy to his mother and dispels her fearlessness. That's how this chapter like this canto progresses and ends here. So practically, we can also be very grateful to Sri Prabhupada for this purpose. Had this purpose not been there, or if Prabhupada's commentary has not been there, we would not be able to understand a lot of these just by the translation or even from the Sanskrit text. I was reading the Sanskrit text. The Sanskrit text in itself was like so big. Like I just taken a printout of it. You can see it's so big. Imagine Prabhupada not given the purpose. He's just reading this. It's pronouncing this up is quite a little challenging for some of us, but Prabhupada actually translated the whole thing, and so we're very grateful to Sri Prabhupada, and we're very fortunate to be in this society where we have such purity of people, of sannyasis, of devotees. We can also preach this message of Krishna consciousness, what we read, or we can try to represent Sri Prabhupada's mood in a sincere, humble mood of devotion and humility to all. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments or additions? Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the amazing class. My question was, as we were discussing about the aerial mention and things like that. See, we see the case of Devahuti. She was practicing devotional service. It is not that she was also not a devotee, but still she had material desires. And still she had material desires, that she wanted son, and she wanted to enjoy with, Kardama Muni, like that. Similarly, in our life also, as practicing devotees, we also have one side, at least I have one side of practicing devotional service. Sincerely, I want to practice. Other side, material desires are also there. Now, in case of Kardama Muni, he was a great mistake. So he could fulfill the desires of, Devahuti by creating aerial mansion and things like that. But in our case, actually, if you see, like most of the time, people are just busy in condemning the modern science and things like that. So modern science helps us, as Kardama Muni was helping Devahuti to fulfill her desires materially. So like that, we are not able to hear. Hare Krishna.
It's cutting in between.
We can
Now
hear.
we are able to hear.
I'm able to hear.
Yes, we are able to hear.
Okay, so now if you see modern science is helping to fulfill the material desires of the living entity, just as Kardama Muni was helping to fulfill the desires of Devahuti by creating aerial mansion. Now, aerial mansion everybody cannot create. Modern science is helping us, so we should promote it. No, that is one thing. Second aspect of the question was, when we are thinking about perfection of life in our in the terms that the way that Devahuti is aspiring. So I think it supports that we should.
I'll give order. Can you just put?
You could hear my question, Prabhu.
Proof for us, it is audible. I think.
I will rephrase your question. So what you can open your video Dinesh. So your question is that see Kardamuni was a yogi. He fulfilled the desire of Devahuti. Same way, modern science is fulfilling the desire of people. So why should we condemn modern science? That's what your question, right?
And we should rather promote it because it helps.
We should promote modern science. Yes, very nice question.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So yeah, thank you very much for a nice question. See, one thing we should understand as it's gone here. Sorry. Unmute yourself. Okay, I don't see anything on the screen. Okay. So thank you very much for a very nice question. I'm sorry for the internet. So see, one thing what we see here is the first part of your question that is like, okay, as a practice individual also you have material desire. Okay, that's fine. But the Lord actually says, Akama sarva kamova moksha kamao dharadi tivrena bhakti yogena. So that's the verse where he actually mentions that how whether you so whether you have material desire, you don't have material desire, you actually worship the Lord. So that's the first point of our discussion, that devotee is performing devotional service. So that's her glory, that okay, she's performing devotional service. So eventually she'll get purified. So coming to a question of modern science, okay, the current husbands cannot produce male mention, for example, or they cannot fulfill the, see, as a wife or as a living entity, it's quite natural for us to have material desires, and that's the base of why we are in this material world, right? So it's quite obvious for us to have a material desire. But the point that modern civilization is helping us fulfill these material desires, okay, agreed, okay, in terms of this skyscrapers, okay, we can't produce moving skyscrapers, but we can produce, say, for example, normal buildings, okay, agreed. But can the Kardamuni also provided fearlessness to devotee? So can the modern science, after giving all these facilities, can they give fearlessness also to us? So that is not possible. In fact, the fear is increasing in the modern world. We see that voice coming up. Sorry, I don't see. So the voice is coming. Sorry. We see that in fact, after providing all of these facilities, man becomes more fearful. I know. I have seen my relatives stayed in their home. They have like a lot of Lakshmi and then like a lot of gadgets, a lot of opulence, but they don't get sleep in the night. So a person who is, I have visited homes of people who have homes worth 8 crores. And in their house, I got to know that out of 4 of them who sleep there, 3 of them don't get sleep in the night. One of them doesn't get sleep because he owns that place. The second one doesn't get sleep because the gadgets, for example. The point is that just having these opulences and fulfilling the material desire is not the point, but the point is that they can't give us fearlessness. So Kardamuni also give fearlessness. So if they can give that, then but the fearlessness can be given from the Shastras. Fearlessness can be given by associated devotees. The greatest gift, one of the gifts of what bhakti gives, is abhaya. You get the fearless, you become very fearless. So that can not be provided by modern science. So any feedback or corrections? I just try
thank
to
you, bro, for the amazing answer.
I've heard. We may kindly correct and provide feedback.
Vipin Poo, you are able to hear me?
Dinesh Poo, we are not able to hear you. Can you maybe put your audio?
Okay, I'll write in the chat then.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Danda Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danda Pranam.
Yeah, Prabhuji, as you were answering the question, so we should like Kardamuni was giving the instruction to devotee that fearlessness will be there. So how do we attain that fearlessness?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. How do we attain that fearlessness? Yes. So actually, in case of Kardamuni, he gave Devahoti the gift of, Kapil Dev, who actually imparted the instruction, and later she got divine service. So we can get fearlessness in our heart when we invoke Krishna in our heart. Which means that if we perform devotional service sincerely, and by the devotional service of a devotee, when Krishna is pleased, when Krishna comes and resides in the heart of devotee, then you become fearless. You are not worried about anything. So practically, how do we get fearlessness? Very simple. And we can perform the limbs of bhakti sincerely, which is this like the 5 main things. What is pretty simple and pretty important. Let's say hearing Srimad Bhagavatam daily, chanting the holy names of the Lord, associating with devotees, going to Dham, deity worship. By this, what will happen? Your innate love for Krishna, which is there, it's already there in the heart. You don't need to bring it out from anywhere. It's available. But by performing this devotional service, as and when it gets ripened, you're so like it's solely have a covering. So as the covering goes on, it's like you have a mirror in front of you, and then like it's full of dust. So then the more you wipe the dust, the more you're able to see yourself. So similarly, the more we become purified and cleansed, the natural quality of the soul come out, and Krishna will be pleased by that when our bhakti awakens. And when bhakti awakens, then naturally you become fearless. So you don't need to endeavor separately. You don't need to have security guards to be fearless. Even if you have security guards, you're not fearless. But if you have Krishna with you, then you are fearless. You have abhaya. That's why even sannyasis, they can travel anywhere. They travel anywhere in the past. That's the point. Preach, because they have Krishna with them. So anyone who has Krishna with him, he is fearless. He did not have any fear. He knows Krishna will protect me. Avashya rakshibe Krishna. So no matter what, Krishna knows what is best for me, and Krishna will protect me in each and every circumstance, and I don't need to have any fear. So a devotee of the Lord is bindas in that sense.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Can I ask a question?
Please, Prabhuji is requesting to have feedback. Whatever Raja Krishna is.
Can I ask a question, Prabhu?
Oh, Mataji, now there is no.
Is time up?
Actually, Charan Janpu is leaving, and I have to complete the evaluation and leave.
No, okay, fine, no problem.
But maybe next class you can write the questions in the WhatsApp group. He will answer.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Write the answer in Bhakti Web. Any further question, you can write in Bhakti Web WhatsApp group. So you in the Bhakti Web WhatsApp group, we have sent the evaluation link. So I hope all of you have filled that, because we will evaluate you at that evaluation.
Okay.
So one of the part of evaluation is you should evaluate. So you will also get marks for that evaluation.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So any feedback any devotee wants to give for the presentation class. And I also thank other devotees who joined for hearing Vipinavihari Prabhu's class there. So it's a Temple Bhagavatam come Bhakti Vaibhav Bhagavatam class evaluation. So another class over. So I think if somebody can remove the custom live, you can stop the custom live service, so then you can have the evaluation. Yeah, host is not there. Who's the host?
Vipin, you only can stop it.
You want me to end the session? Okay.
Please end the session, because now our informal evaluation is starting.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Not ending the session. You have to stop live streaming, project. Not ending the session.
Not end the session. It's all just live stream. Yeah.
Okay.
Prabhu, I can only, it's there in the PDF file, right? I mean, I have to leave if I have to.
No, link is there, Mataji. Link.
Link. You have to the
Form,
last
you
link.
have
No,
to
I have
fill the
sent.
form.
I have sent one link, Mataji. Just click that link and you have to evaluate that link.
Where in the WhatsApp group?
Yeah, in the WhatsApp group.
So how do I do that without leaving?
Okay. Anyone has any feedback?
It was very nice, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Vipinavihari Prabhu. But you were very fast. Some of the words, we couldn't really, it just probably because of the internet connection, or I don't know. It was very fast. And the references and the slokas, whatever he used, was very good. And the best part is the answer for Dinesh Prabhu's question. It was very good. Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Very good. Okay, one more feedback. No one wants to give feedback.
Started on time and ended on time, Prabhu, and he gave some time for the question and answers. So he kept some time for the question and answers. Otherwise, it will be delayed.
Yes, time and
the answers also very precise.